Welcome everyone to Expanding Your Consciousness through sharing stories and through discussion. And tonight we're expanding our consciousness by focusing on a topic related to understanding the different energies within us and how to use those energies. So tonight we have Shima Parsa, who has been a regular participant in Expanding Your Consciousness since we began this meetup in November. Shima is a student and practitioner of the complementary and alternative healing modality called Erfan-e-Halgheh, which was founded by Iranian mystic and healer Mohammed Ali Taheri. Master Taheri states that in 1978, he received divine inspiration that involved knowledge of interuniversalism. Within this is two philosophies, Faradarmani and Psymentology. Shima shared some information in a previous meeting, and if you want to watch that meeting, it's under spiritual teachers. But tonight we asked if she could speak more about what she's been learning. So we welcome Shima and sharing this complementary and alternative modality with us. And I really appreciate, Shima, that he said complementary, because what he's saying is with our regular allopathic medicine, this works well with it. Right? That,
exactly.
Can't alter or change it in any way. So.
Yeah, we have nothing against the just conventional medicine.
Yeah.
This is by itself is just a complementary. And because tonight I want to talk about Psymentology, I thought to say this, that a big part of human being is not visible. Like what we see, it's obviously a physical body, but then what we not see is the mental body, it's a psyche body, and different really dimension. And then one body that we all share, we call collective spirit, that is as big as the whole universe. It's like we are in the universe or the universe is inside it. It's not really, so it's the whole thing. We just don't see the bigger part of the human being. And same thing with energies. So what we know usually from energy is that it's something that we consume or we sleep. And then we just have that energy when we get up, we just like feel energized. But what happens is that there's this other kind of energies that we experience every day that we are constantly getting charged or discharged. We can be eaten well or slept well, and in the morning, we are like all energized. We receive a phone call and we lost our job. All of a sudden we have no energy to go about our day. And so that's the energy by itself. So with that energy, like what happened to our energy? Like nothing physical happened to us, but we just don't feel energized anymore. Or in the times of emergency, we see like a lot of times that a mother can do this extraordinary thing to keep their kid from danger. They can even move a car or something like really extraordinary that no one can do. And they're always like, how they feel, like how they find this kind of energy. So then these are called hidden energies. That is, for example, this one. So there's a whole list. I don't know how you want to go with this. Do you want me like maybe to just say a few and then we just like, we can just share comments or share experiences? Like how do you want to go?
Well, could you go through the definitions, like Erfan-e-Halgheh?
Oh yeah, for sure. So
and,
Erfan,
and the terms.
For sure. Yeah. So Erfan-e-Halgheh, Erfan literally means knowing. And what it means is knowing yourself and universe by Halgheh, which is obviously is a virtual thing. It's a consciousness field that we get exposed to. So how we see universe is that the universe is a whole, it's like a cosmic internet. And we need to get connected to the source, to the source, like how our computers need to get connected to the source to just get updated. We as human being, we needed to get updated too. We just forgot to update ourselves somewhere along the way. So that's why we feel so disconnected, and this connection stopped, and like we stopped receiving this awareness that we could have received. And a lot of our ailment and our illnesses comes from us not knowing our body. So like the way that we can think about it is we get a new washing machine. We need to go and read the brochure to see how it works. Because otherwise, if we don't read it, then we might just don't know how to do, like how to work it, and might break it. So that happens to human being. We never really go get online and like updated our brochure or just like read our brochure. So we don't know what to do with it. So a lot of our sicknesses that we happen and we just blame God, it's because we don't know our body or our bodies. And so that's what Psymentology is, that studies psyche and mind along with the body. So it's like there are like triangles of psyche, mind, and body, and they are like affected by each other. And a lot of hidden energies is also has to do with the way that we programmed our mind. So people, like different people can be affected by different things differently. So like one thing, if it happens, like if there's for example, a big sound comes from, like somebody might faint, somebody might not show any reactions. People just react differently because of how they program their mind. So in terms of Erfan-e-Halgheh, it just means knowing yourself and knowing your body with help of the connection. And then Faradarmani, it has to do with this, it's one of the halghas that it has to do with healing. And Psymentology is just talks about how the mind and psyche works along with the body and like other parts of our, like other dimension of us.
And I just want to spell out Psymentology because it's Psymentology, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just so people know.
Sounds like Scientology.
I know, that's why I wanted to spell it out.
Yeah, it does sound like that. It is not that though. It's different.
Yeah. Yeah, because it has to do with the different parts and how they're connected.
Yeah, I think in Scientology, they also work with psych a lot, but the way that work there is just different, and they try to unlock I'm not really sure, but it's different. This is totally different. We don't what Psymentology and Faradarmani does, it's directly with connecting with the higher consciousness. Us as human, we don't do anything. We cannot do anything because we don't have the knowledge. So it's just like all like some theories that we say, or like just like the explanation, and then the rest happens through the connections.
And he does get into talking about like the outside universe and the inside universe, right? Like that's what he's talking about with the connection, right? That's all basically together.
It's like we are flowing in it. So it's not really outside us, or it's not really inside. It's just like we are part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the reason I say that is when I was reading some of this information, I thought, gee, I have meditated at times. I'm sure we have meditators here. And where I have seen like cosmic kind of things as I've meditated, as if I am part of the cosmos.
Yeah, this kind of revelation that can happen. Then, so that's like just deepen your understanding of universe. So it doesn't have to be, so the way we look at it is like you want to get awareness, and this awareness comes in different forms. Sometimes it's new information, and sometimes it's the information that we know, and it's just a deeper level of understanding of those information.
What I'd like to know, because when I came across one interview, he's talking again, like you're saying, like a cosmic internet. But when you first came across this information, it was in '78. So computers and computer language wasn't, used among the average population. So I'm just wondering, was there a progression as he was learning this technique?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because in another interview, he says that like in the first 10 years, he was just experiencing, because he wasn't sure what are these, right? What are these halghas? What are these connections? And he was just experiencing it. And then the second decade, he started just to share his knowledge. but obviously just with a circle of friends and families. And then only the third decade, he started to share it with just like the class. It becomes the classes and like the whole community. And then like after 5 years, when he got really big in Iran, and then they arrest him. In terms of that, just the obviously they arrest people for a stupid reason. And so he was in prison for 10 years. And then after 10 years, when he got released and he came here, he went to Toronto, he came to Canada.
So is he in Canada right now?
He's in Canada, yes.
Okay, he's in Toronto.
Yes, and then he started his new academy. So now he has that.
Does
and
he ever...
those academies or schools and that are all around the world, are they not? Like, I think the big ones in the US and in the UK, these centers where they study universalism, I think they call it.
Oh yeah, that he's a student. Yes. Yeah.
Does he ever talk about the 10 years in prison and how that affected his sense of truth or anything like that?
Not really. No.
Plenty of time to meditate when you're in jail for 10 years.
Yeah, it's also they do it's like in Iran they do they torture people a lot. Like they torture people both psychologically and physically too. But he never really talked about that. But he was when he came out, it was he had just to bring a whole, like, because he made this whole community, and then he had to, for like a year, he had to bring the whole community together, because what happens, like a lot of students wanted to hijack the whole Erfan-e-Halgheh for themselves, saying like Master Taheri is in prison, or he might be dead, we don't know, because like in Iran, when someone goes to prison, you just don't know, like there is no news of him. Yeah. So they were just trying to hijack him, and so there was like so many, it's like with anything, I guess it happens, with people like just trying to just take things for themselves. But other than that, not really.
Yeah. So he had millions of followers in Iran, right?
Yeah, and I feel like now that he's in Canada, he's really like, because he goes to different meetings about consciousness, because I know that there's this what's it called? I'm not sure what it's called, but it's like the Association of Consciousness or something in Arizona that he attended. So I think now that he's here, because from Iran it was obviously harder, but now that he's here, he has the chance just to just tell to the world, right? And so he's trying to just like, because it's obviously it's a connection. It's nothing that you can prove scientifically, but what you can prove with like Faradarmani is you can bring results, right? So then he just tried to find like bring cases together and like do the case study and everything.
So can you give us an idea of like what is it that they do? Because I know he gets into our cells and the memory in our cells, and you know, one cell may have the memory of trillions of cells and that sort of stuff.
So yeah, the idea is like one cell has the memory of whole universe, and it's just like by when all it needs to do is like activating those information, and by activating those information through the connections, then a cell can heal itself, can just trade itself up. So that's the whole idea.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Shima?
Yeah. What's the practice? Like, how do you start off? Like, what are, yeah.
Faradarmani?
Yeah. Like, if you were to go to see your master, and for the first time, what would be the starting point? What is the goal?
Sorry, you mean the healing process, or what are you referring to here?
I'm not sure, because I'm not familiar with any of it.
I see. Okay.
So yeah, just if somebody was interested and they ended up attending
I see.
something, what would they, yeah, what would that look like?
I get it. So the whole Faraday, like the whole Erfan-e-Halgheh, it just like I said, it works with halghehs, but halghehs are virtual, and like people, they don't really believe in something like when you say it's virtual, it's like what is it, like what's virtual? So what happens, like we start like the first, there are like obviously different courses that you can go to, but the first course would start with Faradarmani. The reason is that you can get the connection yourself and you see the result. So what we say, if you see the result, then you can continue. So once you see the result, when you feel these connections and you see that, no, I saw results, whether it's physical, mental, psycho, whatever. And one of the first results that everyone can see is like, because we all kind of suffer from depression one way or another. So that's one of the first things that we feel just more energized, like less depressed. And then once you see the result, then you want to go through the second stage, which that's when getting to know yourself starts, and know you didn't, if you're interested, you just can get to know yourself and the universe. And there's actually a lot of explanation, because like once I went through all the whole courses, like a lot of my question actually was answered, and a lot of questions that I didn't have. So it's really interesting.
Why would you say that you're here to tell us about this? What personally have you experienced that makes it really worthwhile for you?
Oh, it changed the whole course of my life, because I was 10 years ago, I was like really looking for answers. What is this universe about? What is this life about? What does it matter that what I do? So I had all these questions, and then later on I found out that this is like the three main questions that a human being can have. What am I doing in this planet? Where did I come from? Where am I going to? And so I had these questions, and I was trying to go find my answer through just like going through different philosophers, gurus, and I had friends that they suggested Mr. Taheri to me back when I was in Iran. It was just, I wasn't ready, and I was just so busy, and it was like, well, okay, like whatever, like I don't think I really want to go to his classes. But once I was actually looking for answers, I remember his name, and then after like I was like a couple of months I was looking for answers, then I started to study him or study his courses. And then everything for me was just like the first thing, it was just everything made sense right away to me. So yeah, just the whole thing, the whole course of my life, I would say it's just like you go about your life with a whole different meaning. Whatever you do now, because it's backed up with the whole, because it's just because before that, whatever you do, it's like, why do I want to do that? Like everything is pointless really if you don't have that backup. It's really hard to describe. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Well, I mean, like for example, in what sense do you see yourself differently? Like what are you? I mean, did you get an answer to the question of who am I? Did you get what questions did you get answered that were really
important? Okay, I see. A lot of them. So where did I come from and who am I? So because what happens is that there is really no, or before him at least, there was like really no clear answer. The best thing is like this life is the starting point, like the beginning of this life. And then what happens is then some people talked about reincarnation, coming back here, but then what happens, and then talking about hell and then heaven. So if you're good, you go to heaven, and then if you're bad, you go to, that didn't obviously make sense to me. And then, but just the way that he describes it is that we go through different stages of life, and we come to this life, and then we have like at each stage of life, okay, so it's the whole thing is a circle, and there's the observer. If you think of an observer that stays at the top of the circle, which is there's no time, there's no place. So when there is no time and there is no place, if the observer really looks at this circle, then he can see it, or he or she, like, it's hard to say it in English, because in English there is no, when you talk about an observer, you have to say he or she, whereas in Farsi there is actually, you can make it not referring to any sex. But so what happens to the observer is that because there is no place or there is no time, the observer sees the whole circle in a fraction of a second. So what we experience in this whole circle is actually a fraction of a second. Also, it means that we are up there and we are down here. And here, this life, it's only 50% true, and it's 50% virtual. It exists, but it also doesn't exist if you think about the whole thing. And then in terms of hell and heaven, that's also answered. But then it's also answered in really different courses. So I don't know how much you want to know in just like a few minutes or few hours, but I can tell you about that too.
So if someone comes to you,
yeah,
and they've been diagnosed with cancer, say breast cancer. Now, my understanding is that this is a holistic approach in the fact that it doesn't just focus on the breast cancer, but on the cells that make up the whole body. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the way we see it is that what we see as a breast cancer, it might have originated somewhere else. And actually cancer, sorry, I'm dog sitting, so if you hear the dog, it's because of that. So cancer, what happens with cancer most of the time is that our mind is the management of our body. And if you think of a manager, a good manager, obviously it's very organized, and but think about an unorganized manager that when once that it's that's at the head of an organization. And what happens with us is that we lose a lot of our mental energy throughout our day. And a lot of it is wasted if we have a lot of distraction. So the manager, which is mind, doesn't do its job well. So our souls are actually very much connected to that manager. And the manager say, hey, this is your duty description, so this is what you have to do. But in terms of cancer, they don't know the cells, they lost their connection with the mind, or the mind doesn't work properly, doesn't manage properly. So then they either reproduce more than they should, or they less than they should. So that happens in the cancer. So sometimes what I'm trying to say is sometimes what happens in the body is like originated somewhere else. So that's why it's like holistic. So that's why a person cannot do it, because a person can only see this physical body, this visible body.
So Shima, how would you do, is there a practice that you know, develop that, well, so you become a better manager, you become more aware of your body's energies, and what would be an example of how you start to do that sort of?
It's just like I said, it's all done with connection. And so that's why the first level of it is Faradarmani, and it's the connection now is universal, so everyone can try it. And then once you did that, once you see the result, then you go to level 2. And then, so one of the connection actually helps you to be present all the time, because this is another thing that I learned, is that inside us there we have different selves, and we have selves that wants us to spiritually elevate us it's to our benefit, and there are selves that they try to drag us down. And one of those selves is in our mind, which is trying actively to make us not to be present. And so, for example, if I'm here, if I'm not present, that's their job is to make me not be here. It's either I'm thinking about past or future, or what happens upstairs, downstairs. So I'm not here. So one of the connection helps you to be present, and that by itself helps the manager, which is the mind, to work properly. because we're always distracted, especially like the more like with technology and with the social media, and just the more that we get into this, the more distracted we are.
And television and everything.
So this is a way of getting in touch with our different selves. And so there are many that will, if we were to participate, become aware of how to connect with these selves and become a better manager.
Yeah.
Become more aware of the distractions and what's going on with ourselves. We may not even know all of these selves.
Yeah, exactly. So with the connection, think about it as when you wanted to learn driving. You had an instructor beside you that had like a brake pedal and like had all the things. So you would drive, but this instructor would help you with the driving. So the manager is the driver of this, the body. And so that's how connection help us. The connection is the instructor. It's basically, we are supposed to get so mature that we can do it ourselves, but we still can't. So the instructor is there to help us, to brake for us. So whenever we're not present, so as soon as we get connected, as soon as I think about it, with that fraction of a second, it happens. If I have the halgheh, then it happens. The brake is there, and then right away I'm present. But as you go about this, we usually get there, get more spiritually mature to get there yourself.
Is the manager in this case, are they asking the person questions or getting a sense? Because it is mainly mastering the mind, right? That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Because really, our whole world is a manifestation of our thoughts. That's why, things, media and all this is used to manipulate our thoughts, right? Commercials are there to manipulate us, our thoughts and our emotions. So they're doing that, because I remember in the one interview, he said, we don't do psychoanalysis. Like, we're not, having a person, talk about their story and that over. No, it's nothing.
No, nothing. Like, we don't even know the person's problem or their disease or their illness.
Yeah.
As soon as they just ask us well, right now it's universal, so every person can try connection for themselves. So as soon as they want to get connected, they can get connected and they can see through this connection. So all we ask is just close your eyes, and that's just to shut those distractions. And then you can just really tune into your body for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and just feel what happens through your body. Do you feel any like flows of energy? Do you see any light? Do you see like do you feel any pain anywhere? Do you shiver? It's really different for everyone. And for us, it's just connection. It's not like I don't really need to know what's wrong with you, or do you have any disease. Or you can just say, hey, I know this person. But as soon as you tell me you know this person that has this problem, it's the connection is on. The connection can be one way. It's just like as soon as I think about it, it happens. But the best way is when it's two ways, that the other person also sits through that connection, so that feels it.
So really what you're being trained in is to tune in to your body, like really understand and are you tuning into the physical as well as all the energy bodies?
Yeah, tuning in is just a way to just like, because like to feel this connection, because a lot of times you just feel it, and then the more you feel it, it's like, hey, I felt this flow of energy. And when you feel it, you believe it. So I guess that's the whole idea of tuning in.
Yeah. And when you feel it, simply because a lot of people, when they describe this field that we're in, of course, there's different frequencies in the field, but the baseline of it, the baseline of creation, is supposed to be joy and love, and that. Do you feel that?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's one of the things. Just if you feel always elevated after connections, you feel elevated, and so with with connection, it's always positive feelings. It's like there's joy, that's the sense of ecstasy, like all those good feelings.
And I guess as you repeat that process, you keep doing it, it gets to the point that's automatic. Whereas right now, a lot of us, you know, if something like you said, something happens, you know, you lose your job and all that, boom, you fall back on, oh my God, what's my family gonna think? What's this gonna happen, right? You know, but whereas when you're well trained in this, that doesn't make a big difference, right? It's
Yeah,
just
exactly. Just
something
like I said, like first you help, the connection will help you. It's just like not that like whatever, like the lose of job affects you so much, but at some point you get there yourself that it really doesn't affect you anymore. Because in Erfan, we want to be invincible. We want to be a person that, so the way we look at life, it's I think I mentioned once that it's like an ocean and we are the ship. So how much we are affected by those waves. So if we get to a storm, can we survive it? Because when you're in the ocean, a storm can come any day, right? So how much are we prepared for that storm? And so the more spiritually evolved you are, the less you are really affected by it.
Yeah, and the less likely you're going to attract even a worse situation, right? Like, you know, often, you know, when we're in a lot of trauma or drama, we attract more, right? You know, when it's our reaction and then we attract.
And that's a mindset. So that's how our psyche body works. And so then we get to study our mind, our psyche body. The psyche body works, it has two parts, the positive part and the negative part. And at any point, we either can be using the positive part or negative part. There's no in between. So there are either happy feelings or there are other sad, fear, like negative feelings. And if we are using the positive part, the good thing is that we are only also absorbing positivity from us, like around us. And if we are using negativity, a negative part, if you're sad, not only we are vibrating negativity, but we are also absorbing all the negativity around us. And our positive side is blocked. So any positive energy around us, we don't get that. And we almost all, that's why happens. Like I had like a streak of bad luck or streak of good luck. That's where it comes from. Because you just feel good. So then good things happen to you because you're absorbing all the good things around you, or vice versa, you absorb all the bad things around you.
Does he get into things such as like a higher self? Like, does he talk about things like that, or entities or loving beings around us? Like, do we get assistance, or is that just a greater sense of us?
I didn't get your question.
Well, some people believe that, you know, there are angels or devas, you know, that can help us, right? So when we're vibrating at a high level, do we attract additional help, or is that our higher self, a higher vibrational self?
The connections are the help that we are getting. So the connection is the help. But this is also all explained too in terms of like angels, like because like when you go like all the levels to his courses, then like the last one, because that was my problem, I always had problems with religious, and that last one he talks about religion and like where they come from and what are all these that they're saying, why they say these things. And a lot of things with like angels and devas has to do that people at that time, they were not mentally prepared, just like you mentioned just now that, hey, like 30 years ago, there was no internet, there was no computer, like how did he start? And like think about it, thousands years ago, where people didn't know much. So if there was somebody that knew stuff, how are they gonna communicate with people? Even now it's hard, right? That we know cells, how cells work, how internet works, right? But back then they had no idea. So then they had to, you know how you talk with kids and then you have to just say, you have to bring animals, like, oh, there was this, like, you know, it's
right, yeah.
that kind of
simplify it to, yeah, for that time.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of it is that and other stuff too, but that mainly.
Yeah. Because, you know, a lot of people, just as he said, it's some sort of cosmic internet. And that is something that I've heard more and more often. Even Jasmine Heen gets into that, like changing the program kind of thing, right? Changing the coding, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole Psymentology is about.
Yeah.
So you know how they say in science, we say we only use 1% of brain, but they call it brain because they think mind and brain is the same thing. But that's the thing. We really don't use our full capacity. It's like our all those codings are off. So what happens in Psymentology, in Faradarmani, in the whole Erfan-e-Halgheh is trying to do is to turn them on. And that happens while like people who do drugs, that's how they see things, they feel things, and they continue to do drugs. It's because some of those pathways gets turned on. But then the problem with drugs is obviously after a while, those pathways, they don't get turned on anymore, and then they get addicted to the drug itself.
Yeah.
So that's that. So this is a way without drug, in a positive way, in a positive connection, just to get there.
To read a bit from an interview I watched, and it was Faradarmani and Psymentology presentation. He says, I'm just, I took little bits, right?
Yeah, sure.
Software programs in our cells reproduce, function, and that is how it functions. The software program determines or dictates what the cell does, whether that cell is a brain cell, blood, bone, stomach, or liver, etc. Right? Illness occurs as a result of the change in the software program. You've been talking about that, right? Therefore, we change the software program, modify it, and reset it so it can function normally. He called it software rectification. So this cell is once in the brain and once in the stomach and once in the bone and the bones, once in the blood. Therefore, the multiplicity of the disease is not an issue. So is he saying because the cell shifts, or that the cells are communicating, like the brain and the blood and all this? I'm just wondering what he meant there.
Yeah, because you're reading the translation, I'm trying to
Yeah.
So two things. So the software part of it, I think it's pretty clear. It's like, so each cell has its own computer that, so in Faradarmani, the connection, it gets connected with the source, just the way we have to connect our computer to the source to get reset or to get like to restart it again. And with so in terms of is that how you say metastasis, when cancer happens, that what happens is that you might have a breast cancer, but all of a sudden they find that cancer in your brain cells or in your lung. So what happens in those situations is that our cells are also vibrating information. And so by only their vibration, they can make other cells that are other parts of the body sick. So I don't know if it was that or what, but that also can happen.
But say those cancer cells, are they communicating to the other cells in the body? Or are the other cells communicating? Well, I guess you would
think about it like a Bluetooth.
Right?
Yeah, like a Bluetooth, how Bluetooth works, like, that's how they communicate too. So that's another way of communicating.
Yeah, because that would make sense when I've talked to people who have gone through the process, like dealing with bone cancer and all that. Often the doctor will say to them, go to your happy place.
Yeah.
Right? Sit there and just think about, something that makes you extremely happy. And I guess what the doctor's doing is trying to get them to focus on that happy vibrational feeling or whatever, or even those healthy cells. And that helps to heal or the other cells.
Yeah, and just the more happy you are, like if you can find that happy place, your mind will be more prepared to deal with this problem. Whereas like when you are not, you just like the more you are distracted, the more you are making it a big deal, the less it can be effective. Because think about it again as a manager of the body. So the manager needs to be in charge. So then if you can find that happy place for a manager, it can work better. Whereas if it's all over the place, it obviously less effective.
And then this one I put in quotes, so I just want to continue. If we can rectify cell program, the kind of disease does not matter in Faradarmani or other Iranian complementary medicine, because that cell can function normally if it receives the correct software program.
Yeah.
Which we've kind of already talked about.
Yeah.
Mind, soul, and other sectors that similarly can rectify and be reset in order to cure. The human body has a cell that contains 100 trillion different cells in its own body. If we have access to this data, which is actually the software program of that cell, we can recover, find the flaws, and eventually heal them.
Yeah.
And I guess he's talking about the communication between cells, or the memory is in that one cell that's in the memory of all the other cells.
This last, I think it's all has to do with that software, the software programming. So whenever any cell is diseased, it's the software programming that has a problem, right? So whenever a computer is problem with it, it's most of the time, 99% of times, are software. So then the software, how it works is has to receive the right information from the source again. And as soon as it does that, as soon as it gets connected and the source runs through it and then fix all that software, the cell, it's fixed. It doesn't matter where it is, if it's a brain cell, if it's a lung cell, if it's a cancer, it doesn't matter what the problem is, it will get fixed.
Does anyone have any questions for Shima?
I have a question actually for
Okay.
Shima, and that is how I live near Toronto, so I would be very interested in visiting one of the schools, definitely. How would I contact anyone to do that?
The school is happening through it's an internet. I think he wanted to have live classes, but when he came here, it was right after COVID, so it's all through
I
internet.
see. Yeah.
But what I can do is so you wanna get into contact with the Faradarmanist?
Yeah. I'd be very interested because I do meditation and I do fasting sometimes and things like that, and so I'd be definitely interested for sure.
I can send you the website, and they have
Sure.
like the whole section. If you have any questions or anything,
Yeah.
I'll do that. If I can find you through Meetup, right? Are you doing?
Yes, she's on Meetup.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll send you the info.
Okay, I just think it's great that there's somebody, a teacher who's out there helping people.